Welcome to Fuzzybutts and Friends. Well, as much as it drives Fuzzybutts all over this world absolutely crazy when they hear me say it, I am the host of the show, your big dog, Luke Robinson, and we're happy to have back with us this week Ginger Morgan. She's the executive director of the Puppy Up Foundation, and she's not ill, but her voice, she's having something weird or funny. She sounds strange. I mean, a little stranger than usual, that is. Ginger, how are you? How you feeling?
Well, as you said, I feel okay, but I can't talk. So I'm guessing you're going to do all the talking pretty much as usual, because when I want to talk, I have to butt in anyway.
That's
And now
something.
I can't be, see, there you go. I can't be loud enough to butt in. So maybe if I go like this.
I just did ironically just interrupted you. Well, I'm used to doing all the yapping anyway. I just have that gregarious personality for better or worse, and I'm a passionate dude as well to boot. So, you don't really have to do a lot of that talking, Ginger, because our two guests today are our dear friends and fellow travelers and two people who have been touched so intimately and personally by canine cancer in our companion animals. Jim and Rene with Tripawds and Tripawds Foundation. How are you two? Welcome back to Fuzzybutts and Friends.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having us.
Doing well, and I can talk forever, so don't worry about it, Ginger.
You and I are
between you and Luke, we don't have any problems.
Yeah, we are the yappers. We actually, when we've the few times that we've spent together in person, Jim, we actually have spent many an evening just talking about the passion, our travels and stuff, because we have a lot to talk about. I share, as you know, I've backpacked some 42,500 miles and have met in so many people who have been touched by cancer in our Fuzzybutts. But like you to have done the same. So we always have so much to share and so much to talk about that I think it should be Fuzzybutts and Friends tradition now to have you guys back on every year as an update to let us know our audience, which is growing. It's bigger than you guys. I think we're number one or number two of Fuzzybutts and Friends. So we look a little bit better. We've added some new technology. And I've sort of kind of fell into the role, I think, of being comfortable being host. So I think what I'd like to do with the two of you, if it's okay with you, is have you back every year, so long as Fuzzybutts and Friends is on the air. But let's do it before TriDay. Let's do it like a couple of weeks before that. Like a dunderhead that I am, self-admittedly, I've after walk 3, I've been in a real funk. And just sort of, and I call it the winter of your big dog's introspection, and just writing about it. And then I've got this really cool screenplay I'm working on. And so I just lost time. And Ginger's like, "Hey, it's TriDay's coming up," and I think I had 2 days in advance notice. So I went long. Speaking of yapping, that's a long introduction, but why don't we start out? Let's pretend like to some of our audience, our growing audience, they don't know about the two of you and our history. So to start out with, tell us everything about Tripawds, Jerry, and what we call your origin story.
Sure. And first of all, we'd be honored to come back for an annual get together here because we go way back. It was probably 1970. What? Oh, 2000. So 2007. It's been at least 15 years.
Yeah.
When we first heard from you with your big epic journey from Austin to Boston, and we were there to help kick off that epic walk in Austin with the big barbecue, because we had just launched more or less 6 or 7 months into our own journey traveling in an RV. So you've walked thousands of miles. We've put on 100,000 plus miles in our RV over the past 15 years, all because of our own silly 3-legged dog, Jerry.
Yeah, people are probably wondering, well, what's the big deal there in their RV? Well, it was Jerry that inspired us to make that move. He was diagnosed with bone cancer, and we were told he had 6 months to live, even if we amputated. So we were at a good place in our life where we said, you know what, let's just put everything on hold, get rid of the house, get rid of the business, sell everything, and hit the road with Jerry. And that was in 2006 when we started planning. By June 2007, he was still with us 6 months later. And we're like, yes, let's go. So we had an RV, we had a truck, and we had a year that we were going to take and just travel with him. And he did great. We like to tell people that the trip with Jerry was the medicine that allowed him to live an extra 2 years after his osteosarcoma diagnosis. Yeah, it was incredible. Just new places, new faces every day. And he had a blast.
So that first year, we planned for a year off. We were just gonna Jerry was our chief fun officer, the CFO of our company, and we wanted to pay him back. He was about 8 years old at the time, and we were just gonna go on an epic journey. And that he ended up living 2 years, loving life on 3 legs for 2 years with cancer.
He lived long enough for me to actually meet Jerry. I was very fortunate.
Exactly.
I met him and spent the night with him in your trailer.
That's right.
That was so fun. Yeah, different trailer.
And during that time, we planned for a year off, but we're by no means retired. So we started a little website just talking about Jerry's travels. And next thing you know, I installed discussion forums, a live chat. And now we've grown into the Tripawds Foundation, which hosts 2,000 plus 3-legged dog and cat blogs, forums, chat, tripod talk radio, podcasts, numerous assistance programs, and I could just go on and on.
But Jerry basically inspired a community to bring people whose pets were going through amputation together. Anybody who's been through limb loss with their dog or cat knows that it's a really emotional, very traumatic experience for us. Not so much for them. They tend to just get on with life and bounce back, but it's the humans who tend to have the real problem with adapting and preparing for what's next. So Tripawds exists to help people around the world cope with the upcoming surgery, help them through recovery, and then later help them with things like rehab therapy. Our foundation was started so that we could more directly support people. So we have grants if somebody wants to take their dog to rehab therapy, or cat, which we really, really encourage them to do. The foundation pays up to $200 a visit for the first visit, if they go to a certified therapist. And we have amputation surgery funds for economically disadvantaged people. All kinds of good stuff at Tripawds.
We're helping rescues. We'll do a matching grant for a rescue if they're raising funds for a dog or cat in their care that needs an amputation. We've been doing a few of those recently, and
it's not just limited to dogs and cats. We've had rabbits, rats, birds.
Stompy the rat.
You guys truly are Fuzzybutts and feathers. Fuzzybutts and feathers.
There you go. There you go.
But so that's interesting. So any there could be any qualifying need for amputation, you'll pay for it. Doesn't matter if it's cancer, doesn't matter if it's an injury, a deformity, something that's a congenital at birth.
For surgery, it's an income qualified program. So if the human qualifies, no matter what the cause of that cancer, surgery, I slipped there because the majority of the causes are cancer, and the same with rescues. We'll go ahead and do that without income qualification.
Yeah. A lot of people join us because of cancer, but accidents and other issues are the other reasons why people come.
Right, you're all encompassing 3 and even 2-legged dogs. I haven't heard of one yet. Have you heard of one-legged?
Not quite.
Not yet.
But paralyzed dogs, we know of paralyzed dogs.
Quadriplegic dogs, right?
Sure.
Yeah, we've had 1 or 2 through the years.
Well, we jumped ahead a little bit to your foundation, and we'll certainly get more to that, how people can apply the process and so on and so forth. Well, let's stick with your origin story because it's so similar to mine, and it really is sort of the nature of our friendship and sort of the fact that we have this one dog that completely transformed our lives, and it set us about on a journey and a mission that we all 3 respectively, and Ginger's well, she came a little later during my first walk, but all 4 respectively are still on that journey still. I mean, I think, I'm not sure if you sold all your stuff, including your house, but I was renting at the time because I was preparing for my first walk from Austin to Boston. But I had to sell everything, sell my truck, put whatever I had left or needed that I thought I'd need at some point in the storage, and just got on a journey. And like the 2 of you, you're still traveling, and you're still meeting so many people out there that have been touched, not only by osteosarcoma and cancer, whatever cancer takes their limb, but just people who I would say that just have a profound and deep understanding for the value of our companion animals.
Mm-hmm.
I would say so. Yeah, our audience is definitely the type of pet parent who goes above and beyond.
The extra distance.
The extra mile. It doesn't necessarily mean financially all the time, but it just means being more conscientious about their pets'
And
care.
just as you've had subsequent fuzzy butt friends in your life, and we were talking about things other than cancer, you also met Wyatt Ray, Tripawds spokes dog number 2, who lost a rear limb to neglect as a puppy. And we helped him love life on 3 legs for 12 years, just through rehab and proper nutrition and a lot of things that we subsequently learned after Jerry discovering things about rehab and, you know, keeping dogs fit and trim. And now, since we've last talked, you have not yet met Nellie. So
okay, I was going to ask that. Do you have a fuzzy about a new one?
we do. So honorary spokes dog 3, Nellie is a 3.5-legged dog. So Rene could tell the story about how Nellie came into our life.
Yeah, Nellie was on the euthanasia list at a shelter in San Jose, and I volunteer for a German Shepherd rescue group in Northern California. Saw her listing and I said, huh, look at that dog. She's got a funny looking front leg there. Wonder what the story is. I asked the rescue if they would pull her so we could quote unquote foster her. And that was last
almost a year
June, almost a year ago. And she was the sweetest, kindest, mellowest dog. We just fell in love. Total foster failure.
With a bum leg. So what she has is a carpal flexion contracture. It's an old injury that someone didn't pay attention to, so she can't extend her left front paw.
She's crashed out.
So
I don't think we're gonna wake her up.
She can still run and play, but she'll hurt herself. So she came to us with a bloody paw because she drags it, and you know, so we got a boot for her, and we've seen multiple rehab therapists with some contradicting opinions. So we'll be heading back to Colorado this summer to take her to the OMM, their
orthopedic medicine mobility team at CSU.
They said, oh yeah, we want to see what's going on there, and they will do all sorts of analysis and come up with the right solution to keep her comfortable.
That's awesome. I'm so happy. But just to clarify, because it's not clear in my mind for some reason. So has she got you? Have you adopted her now?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That didn't take long.
When was the gotcha day?
August 1st. Day one. Yeah.
Day one of fostering her.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So basically, Nellie, she tricked you like my tripod, and the latest and greatest infamous Fuzzybutts as they're known, Grayson. Where I maybe we'll have a chance to tell a few stories about Grayson and how our relationship has endured and developed and evolved over time, but you know, Grayson, I kind of joked that he tricked me because, you know, he was so grateful when I first got him. Like we got him, Ginger, I think the first day after our amputation, and then, you know, he was just the sweetest kid, just so wonderful to be with. And then as soon as I signed the adoption papers, I mean, the crazy came out. So if there's a great foster fail ever in the making, it's me and Grayson, whom I love. And I joke about a lot of the times. And unfortunately, every time I do, somebody invariably unfollows me on social media thinking I'm being mean to him when I call him Gimpy. But I'm so happy to hear about Nellie. So will we see her in this episode? Or is she like Jaws, bring her out in Act 3?
So she is zonked out. Like I said, it's pretty warm
yeah.
here right now, and she is just kind of asleep and panting in the corner in the shade.
How old is she?
She's about 8, some middle-aged, late middle-aged.
Okay. And does she have any so she was rescued, so are you the where'd she come from?
So she was found wandering around in San Jose, and somebody thought she had been hit by a car because she walks with a pretty distinct limp. And they took her to a shelter. She was a mess. She was overweight. Her paw was all bloody because she'd been walking around town for who knows how long. And she was on the euthanasia list because right now shelters are completely at capacity. In California, it's really, really bad right now.
She didn't even make it to the rescue website.
Yeah.
They saw her overweight, older dog, bum leg. she just
She
kind of
was just kind of a train wreck that was being written off, and I happened to see her on the administrative side. I didn't even, I didn't see her on Pet Finder or anything like that. And we had been looking for almost 2 years.
we were in Eugene, Oregon at the time. So we drove down to San Jose, California, pretty much sight unseen, go get her. Yes, we will take her, no problem. And
We'll foster her.
Sure, quote
Yeah,
unquote, foster.
Well, so is there any chance at all for her to are you considering a prosthetic? Is that a possibility for her?
So we have had 3 evaluations, all with some overlap yet conflicting views of what can be done. We did some manipulation and rehab for a good month or 2 to determine that it's not going to fix itself. Rehab will not fix this old injury, but the options are anything from amputation to fixating a prosthetic to re-breaking and cutting ligaments and straightening and fusing. So at least it's in the extended position rather than folded position, because we'll go out for our walk and we'll walk a quarter mile or so and we will run and she'll play and then she'll just start buckling over on that, and that's where it starts to get abrasive and cause issues. And that's why she wears a boot. So with these different opinions, we're going to be going to some of the best in the nation to get her on the gait analysis lab and the orthopedic team. We sent some videos and they're very excited to see the options that are available. There's prosthetics that we can kind of attach without amputating that paw, and maybe that's an option. Or there's like an articulating brace that over time you keep notching it out a bit, and that may be the case. Or they may want to cut some things and include a brace. So we're going to juggle all those and see which is best for her. As of now, we keep her out of pain. And we keep her exercising. We do all sorts of rehab to keep her fit and strong. We helped her lose what?
She lost 15
pounds at least.
Yeah,
she was a big girl.
Well, I can tell she's getting marquee care with you guys. That's like, you're like me. I think I'm going to owe care credit until the day I die. I'm quite
and that's a key point there, is like a lot of times after amputation, for whatever reason, vets will say, go let them be a dog, they'll be fine. And they will hurt themselves. It's our job to kind of be the best health advocate for these animals, because they can't decide that and they just want to go be dogs. So we need to rein those things in and channel that energy and keep them fit and healthy on 3 legs. Or
wow, Jim, that's a perfect segue into the next bullet point, which is life with the tripod. So walk for those who are, for our audience who haven't been blessed and cursed with the tripod in their life. And I'm kidding again. Please don't cancel the show. Walk us through what a day in the life, what they can expect their life is going to be like, some adjustments and accommodations. Just walk us through a day in the life with the tripod.
Well, it really depends on so many factors. A lot of people join us and they want to know exactly what to expect. And there's so many things at play. Did your dog lose a leg to cancer? How old was your dog when they lost a leg? Was it because of a car accident? What breed type? Even the breed type of a dog really affects what their life will be like on 3 legs. It doesn't mean that a dog who, let's say, is a Great Dane can't be a good amputee. It just means that it's going to be different than a pug. So that is another reason why we really encourage people to see a rehab therapist, so that they can learn what their particular dog's unique needs are. But in general, people should not expect a tripod to be a hiking buddy or a long distance, I don't know.
Until you factor in things like backpacks and strollers.
Yeah,
and so they can.
Off the bat, they're not going to go walking. You know this, Luke. They're not going to go walking 5 miles with you off the bat.
You're feeding the beast, because now we're going to have to talk about the failure,
the walk
of
the learning experience. It was a learning experience, not a failure.
Well, do you guys, I mean, but it relates though, and it's an important part of this conversation, and certainly our next part of the conversation, which is arthritis, because that's what Mason has. Do you guys know, I don't think we've talked since walk 3, or even the beginning of it. Do you guys know what happened and the circumstance and the madness of what I tried?
We know the whole experience and what was shared, and we didn't really talk personally during that time because you were so busy, but with the cart and all that, we do understand. But by mentioning arthritis, we have deep understanding, because by the end of his life, Wyatt had the most grotesque osteoarthritis in his arm. He was just deteriorated so bad.
One thing that all tripods have in common.
They will develop.
They will develop arthritis. They will get it at a younger age.
Right.
This information comes to us from orthopedic veterinarians. It's pretty common. It's just the compensation that their body does over time. It puts excess wear and tear on the remaining limbs and lower back. Wyatt had IVDD by the time he died. And so it's one thing to keep in mind is there will be extra costs involved in having a tripod, no matter what kind of dog you get, or even a cat. Therapy and just being really conscientious about their needs, especially as they grow older, is it's definitely something you need to do more of for a three-legged animal.
But back to your like day in the life of question.
Yeah.
I sound like a broken record, but it's every dog is different. Front or rear,
Absolutely.
cancer
Absolutely.
or accident. So they're all different.
I was going to put that caveat in there that a bone cancer, amputee, or tripod is they have different needs than other ones. So it is a tripod is not a tripod. But I do want to get back and share the lessons I learned from walk 3, because they are relevant and important here. Because I wasn't that ambitious. I was only going to do 5 miles a day. And we got Eddie's Wheels generously donated the first set of wheels. That there ended up being a design problem with it. It wasn't measured correctly or something like that. But we got a second set of wheels. But right before the day before we were about to launch, or I think maybe the few days before we launched, we had just gotten up to upstate New York, and we had taken an angiogram on Grayson. We got the news that no, it's you know, there's inflammation there, and you're up in the mountains. And we talked to the head of the Heartworm Association of America, and he just said, no, I wouldn't do it. So I'm like, well, okay, that's not what we're doing. And we got this cart, but we did that. We did the cart thing, and he didn't walk a mile, but we got back to Memphis last November. And within a day or two, Jim and Rene, man, he collapsed his back legs. I was terrified. I had absolutely no idea, because he wasn't injured along the way. He didn't do any of the work the entire walk. I can assure you that your big dog Poppy did all the work up and down the mountains of New York. So, my guess is, in talking to the vet, is that he just, by being in there, not exercising him, he had atrophy over the months from that, and then we started to see the arthritis. But just think about this. Think about if the heartworm test would come back positive, and I tried to do him for 5 miles a day up in the mountains. I don't think that would have been, and at times without the use of his wheels, that would have been bad for him. So we probably would have gotten stuck in the mountains. So it ended up being a good thing that he didn't have to walk a single step in walk 3. But it made me realize that, man, he's only 3 years old and he already has arthritis. And so he and I are never going to do any sort of hike that's without wheels that's going to cause any type of damage. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about, we now know that you have to make some life adjustments. And every tripod is different. But let's talk more about rehab. Talk to us about the importance of rehab and what you recommend.
I'd take one step back and say that the ultimate common denominator is weight management.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
every single rehab vet and orthopedic surgeon we've talked to is like, you need to keep tripods fit and trim. And I just cringe every time on Facebook or wherever, and I see these pictures. I'll say it, fat dogs. Yeah. You know, they're inflamed or they're fluffy. No, they're too overweight for the condition. And oftentimes they can still be candidates for surgery, but rehab is even more important, because then you're dealing with the weight loss. You want to keep them on the trimmer side of that weight scale.
Yeah, we noticed a huge difference in Nellie's mobility when she lost 15 pounds. I mean, she couldn't even walk across the street when we got her. And now, you know, she has a lot of energy, but you know, we know here that pet obesity is a huge issue right now, and a lot of people, their pet will unexpectedly lose a leg because they get a cancer diagnosis. So you've got an overweight dog who's going to lose a leg and is not in the best physical condition. Doesn't mean that they're not a good candidate, like Jim said. It just means that recovery is going to be a little bit trickier
and longer.
And you'll be more upset, really, because it just takes longer. for them to get their sea legs back. But they do, especially if you're good about their weight management. So weight management and then rehab therapy. A therapist will evaluate a tripod to find out where their strengths and weaknesses are, how you can improve upon that. A lot of people assume it's a matter of strengthening the legs, and it's not a leg thing. It's a core muscle thing, just like us. Like when we sit up straight, our core muscles are working to keep us upright. So it's the same thing.
Right.
Cats have core muscles too. They all need to be in good shape to keep that body moving. And that's where rehab comes in. They can show you proper exercises to do. It's also about stretching, gentle stretching and gentle massage therapy so that you can keep those muscles limber. Tripods tend to take shorter steps when they move. When they're in any kind of pain, those steps are even shorter. So a therapist can show you when they're in pain, explain what it looks like. They can also show you ways to break up muscle tissue to make it more flexible. So that is really encouraged.
And increase that range of motion. And again, the broken record, every dog's different. Is it a front leg or rear leg? What type of dog? What comorbidities exist? How severe is the weight management? And that's why the Tripawds rehab program will pay for that first visit, because people say, oh, they think rehab, oh, I need hydro, or they'd water therapy or this or that. But there's all sorts of modalities. There's the laser treatment for pain. There's the acupuncture, the passive range of motion exercises to extend that range of motion. Because like Rene was explaining, when dogs have only one of the pair of limbs, they tend to hop. That's why it's better to hop on 3 legs than limp on 4, we say. But we've had rehab therapists tell us not necessarily, because you want to get that range of motion extended. And there's things you can do after one visit. Take your homework home, do your exercises, and go back periodically. It's not like you're going to get sucked into a bunch of expensive visits, which of course would be beneficial, but not necessary.
Yeah, let's go back just a second. Oh, Ginger wants to step in. Absolutely, go ahead.
Hopefully my voice will work. So Luke, I wanted to correct you.
Oops.
Eddie's Wheels gave us a 10% discount. And then when we made the other set of wheels, they used some of the parts from the first one, but Tripawds helped us pay for the second set of wheels.
Yeah, Ginger, if you haven't already figured out the nature of our relationship between Ginger and myself, she handles all the behind the scene details that your big dog just doesn't seem to pay attention to. And I often get things wrong when it comes to details. But I always give the caveat for that. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, if you're going to talk about exercising dogs, you really need to talk about Indiana and his exercise.
I'm going to. It's my notes right here. I'm going to talk about it. And I know you're dying. I know you're dying to talk about Buddy, because he was a 3.5-legged tripod, a really beautiful soul, sweetheart. I love my Bud man. Doing an NFT specifically on him, and then Pete too, who was a German Shepherd. And did you say, Rene, that you volunteered at German Shepherd Rescue? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just thought that was. I know Ginger's dying to tell her Pete and Buddy stories, so I wanted to get that in there because I met 2 of them and they were great souls. Okay, so let's go back to the question I had before Ginger jumped in is do we know is there a metric that we know that tripods should stay within a certain percentage of like their BMI? Do we know that, or we just take them into a vet that knows that number? Who knows that number, and how can we trust the vet when they say, well, your dog should lose a little bit of weight?
The veterinarian is definitely the one who you want to look at your dog. But in general, if you're familiar with the canine body condition score, they also have it for felines.
Okay.
It's generally a number between 1 and 5. And what we were told from a pain management veterinarian was you want a tripod to be somewhere around a 3. You want a tripod to be a leaner and thinner than other dogs of that breed type. So
and what's the test you can do?
So the test you can do is actually the top of your hand.
Make a light fist.
Make a fist, and if you can feel the bones on the top of your hand, that's
not the knuckles.
Yeah.
But on the back of the hand.
That's how you want your dog's ribs to feel. when you pet
If you
their
feel it like the
thighs.
knuckles, too skinny.
Yeah.
If you can't feel any differentiation between the ribs whatsoever, too fat. We won't go there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that's generally how you can tell, but vets, a lot of them are really reluctant to even have that conversation. So it's up to us to bring it up. Is my dog overweight? Can I pull my
Why is
dog?
that so, Rene? Why would that be the case?
Why do vets not want to bring it up? People get offended. People
People love their puppuccinos,
They-
going and getting their dog ice cream. And
I mean, I don't know if you've
Well,
noticed, but the last time I walked into a pet supply store and I saw the row of treats, I mean, treat
at the
options
ingredients.
have like quadrupled in the last several years. And so many of those treats are so high calorie. People don't take that into consideration. So vets, for the most part, are really reluctant to even bring that up. The ones who are more comfortable in that conversation will do it, but really it's up to us. I mean, if you notice that your dog is sitting down on walks or just looking a little too heavy, if you stand over your dog and you can't see your dog's waistline, you probably have a problem. So
Yeah,
you need to talk to your vet.
That's
about it.
unfortunate because the person that you need the correct data is the medical professional. And unfortunately, as I'm seeing, and we'll save this conversation for another time, but it's going to be a topic I'm going to pursue more and more, is we're seeing sort of the woke culture on the fringes of veterinary medicine, and that just has to be stopped because they're talking about things such as gender identity, questions about that, and fluidity in our companion animals, and as well as body shaming in that. And truly, it's a medical issue, and especially when it comes to cancer, carbohydrate intake and weight, all those things. Well, weight throughout the dog's entire life is, if it's overweight, it's going to predispose them to cancer and a whole host of other mobility problems and so on and so forth. So fortunately, I think nearly all the veterinarians that I know, certainly the veterinary oncologists, they'll give you the good advice. But I think it is good to know sort of, and like you said, Rene, ask the question. It's really incumbent upon, invariably and ultimately, it's incumbent upon the pet parent to ask the questions.
So you mean when I keep saying, I can talk, you've got a big butted dog, they might not be taking it as it being funny.
It really depends on the person, I can't blame vets for being hesitant to discuss that subject. It is really touchy.
Well, they come up with cute names for them on Twitter. They call them Chonky now, and it's cute, but hey, fat, come on, get it under.
Or refer to it as inflammation, or people will say,
it's inflammation.
It's fluffy.
Obesity is inflammation that leads to cancer.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
And there's so much we can do about it. So you want to do rehab and you need to reward to get them to the exercises. So Wyatt loved his green beans.
Yeah.
Carrots, green beans, broccoli stems.
Any fruit or vegetable. Nellie,
instead of pumpkin spice pepperoni or whatever you want to give them from the treat aisle.
I admit to indulging my fuzzy butts, but in severe moderation. Whenever I go to Hollywood Feed, I will get them a cupcake that's shared amongst all of the fuzzy butts at the Morgan Manor, which I currently have my my studio. And so it's we don't overindulge. So I just say yes. The treat thing should be, I mean, as you know, the quality of time you spend with your kids. Sometimes that is pampering them, giving a little bit of love, but just get it under control. And then also, like you said, augment with the good stuff. The whether it's Ginger for her fuzzy butt, Lily, she makes, I think it's a turkey kale with broth and stuff. We just got we got some wonderful broth from Bowser Beer, and I give that on the kibble of mine, and then I give fresh food. So diet and control, we could do, as you know, we could talk for hours on diet and control. So let's diet and nutrition, controlling diet and nutrition. So I love it that's step number one. So that was step number one of what was that step number? It's been so long. I guess health specific issues with Tripawds is that weight is really the number one issue that you've got to address. Let's go on to the next, what I think is the most important one. We just touched on that, and that is arthritis. What is the earliest age, Jim and Rene, that you've seen a tripod that's developed arthritis?
That's so hard to say because most veterinarians won't look at a 1-year-old dog and say, we need to check out this dog and make sure they don't have arthritis. But some recent research that's come out has found that dogs do develop arthritis at much earlier ages than previously thought. So if a dog or cat is missing a leg at a young age, you can pretty much assume that that animal already has the beginnings of osteoarthritis. This is information that's out there. I've read it. And the way to address that issue is activity management, understanding what is appropriate activity for that dog, what is not. Keeping cats from, this is almost impossible, but people do it, keeping cats from jumping from incredibly high places. Just managing their environment to mitigate the risk of any kind of extra joint stress or potential injuries. We've had members whose dogs and cats were already tripods break a remaining leg because, because of activity that the owner did not realize was going to harm them. It's not necessarily a pet parent's fault. We learn these things the hard way. Jim and I learned the hard way with Jerry.
And this is why we're such advocates for using a harness to get in and out of vehicles, up and down stairs, because especially with a front legger who carries 60 to 70% of the weight up front, all on one leg now, jumping out of a vehicle, even low vehicles, over time creates hairline fractures that then exacerbate, create arthritis, and can eventually turn into a pathological break. So we need to help them live their best lives.
What was the activity, if you don't mind me asking, that precipitated the break?
In which case?
Oh, for members?
No, you said that the dog broke their legs. What I guess let's talk about that. Let's talk about activity management. I like that term.
Sure.
And it's a term that I am constantly concerned with, because with Grayson, after he lost his hind leg and his hips went out, he was out. It took like a couple of weeks to get him back and operational. And so my biggest concern was what you're talking about. I need to find that balance between, he's got to exercise, he's got to build those muscles, and there's that, but you don't want to overdo it and cause damage. To help you understand, Ginger and I have constructed these bars that are high. How high are they again, Ginger? 8 inches, I think, or 6 or 8 inches. 5 inches. Okay, 5 inches up. And so 3 in succession. And so we started him out on that. And he's walking fine. So we're not seeing any problem. So how does a pet parent, aside from going to a rehab specialist, which is, as you know, very expensive, and we live in, unfortunately, the pet parents are having to make cuts out there, cut costs out there. So how can you help parents, guide them through, aside from joining, obviously, your wonderful community?
The simple steps? But you mentioned something very important there. You asked about activity, and a certified rehab vet explained it to us. It's the explosive activity that is the worst. I mean, we all, it comes back to quality of life too. We love to see them run, and so inspirational, but to chuck it is one of the worst things you can have for a tripod.
Even a 4-legged dog.
It's the explosive activity. You get your dog, off the couch for the past 7 hours. You come home from work, you get off the couch and you go play chuck it. From immobile to sprinting, that's the type of activity, the explosive takeoffs, the stops and turns.
Right.
God forbid some people are doing fly ball, or what's the new fast cat games. And if a tripod bounces off at a surface and jumps back, that's the type of explosive activity you want to avoid. So the things we do with Nellie are more proprioception based, balance based. You want her to get aware of her location of her paws in relation to her body, so she can do a balance beam. She'll put 2 legs on the beam and walk along it, and she'll do kind of get all 4 up there. She's using the core to balance, and it's the balance work, and get the weight bearing exercises. So you lift the rear leg so there's more weight on the front, or vice versa, depending on which exercise you're doing. And then the cookie stretches, the cookie crunches, kind of like lay down and do a sit up to the side, reaching for the cookie or the green bean.
What it really comes down to is managing their activities so they get just the right amount, and learning how to do that can be tricky. Sometimes we humans let our dog do too much. We've done it. But over time, the more conscientious you are about it, the more you'll recognize the signs that your dog has overdone it. Like, dog won't get up the next day after you took the dog to the dog park, and maybe you stayed a little longer than usual because your dog was having so much fun, but the next day your dog can't get up and move. That's a sign your dog overdid it. Anytime a dog sits down on a walk, that's another sign your dog overdid it. So understanding that, yes, tripods can do anything a four-legged dog can do, but within reason. So activities like Fast Cat, there's a whole movement of canine sports enthusiasts who are really advocating for tripods to be in canine sports. And to us, we're like, yeah, cool, but please make sure you're doing it under the guidance of a rehab therapist.
It has risk. That seems like
as long as it's safe.
Yeah, it's a pretty high intensity sport, and if you're not doing it under guidance, you can pretty much expect some type of injury at some point.
There's plenty you can do to compensate. Mind games. You never underestimate how tiring an interactive brain game can be. Wyatt was a high energy individual and would run and hurt himself with that severe arthritis and dysplasia in his older days. So we had the activity mat and the snuffle mat and scent work and nose games or nose work and scent games are just incredible things for dogs because it really keeps them engaged and tires them out.
And these are things that, you know, people will eventually consider for senior four-legged dogs too. For a tripod, you're just doing them sooner in their life. And, you know, we need to rethink what activity is. What does fun look like to a dog? If fun to a dog isn't just throwing a ball or chasing a frisbee or running all day at the dog park. Fun is doing things with their favorite people that engage their brain, have a little bit of physical activity to keep them moving, but not harming them.
Yeah. Fun activity is like throwing a ball with the Pyrenees. You throw a ball to a Pyrenees, and they're like, yeah, and but you aging dogs. You wanted to point that out, and Ginger made a note, or she chirped a remark earlier about me mentioning Indiana. In Indiana, really, he is struggling. His hind legs have gotten so bad, and he also had a recent incident where he can't get on. He couldn't get up, and it was very tough for him. I had to put the ramp up that I had for Hudson, that I built for Hudson, when he was kind of struggling with his mobility. And you know, it's tough now because I'm starting to see the end of life for Indiana, because it's tough for him. And I've got that every day. He does the bars, those exercises, just like Grayson. And we get him up and down to work on the core. So it isn't, like you just said, is that basically you're doing the exercises and you're paying attention to the thing that pet parents who have geriatric dogs are going to have to go through. So it is a good exercise. Speaking of that, you guys have some wonderful videos, I think, on your within your tripod communities. Do you have a link that you can give a shout out to right now to our audience?
Well, the Tripawds YouTube channel is, youtube.com/tripods. And then we got plenty of playlists on the tripods.com website on the videos page, because not just of Jerry and Wyatt and Nellie, but all of our members of dogs, all sorts and sizes, all ages, sharing their stories in the forums. We have a size and age matters forum specific to large breed dogs and older dogs, and people are sharing their experiences there all the time.
So pet parents, like, I guess even if you have a geriatric dog, fuzzy butt, pet of any sort, go to their YouTube channel, and that's just a low cost way or great way. I guess it's free, right? To be able to, they can subscribe to your channel, but there's no cost to do so, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I know when I went there, I saw when I was training Grayson for Walk 3, we went there, and so I highly recommend going to their YouTube channel and subscribing to it. I'm glad we mentioned that right now, because I might have forgotten about it. All right, so that's activity. Yes, ma'am, go ahead. We need a bell for your an air horn or something. Good God.
So you forgot to mention that Indiana exercises himself.
Oh yes, that's a funny story. I'm sorry. I sometimes forget the cute fuzzy butt stories because I have to keep a schedule, a clock, and also I have my bullet points to keep me somewhat organized and structured. But Indiana is so cute. I got to tell you, I love him because Ginger and I both have trained him that doing exercises, he's a good boy. And by being a good boy, you always get treats. And that's just how that's the reward system. And Indiana is just, he's a very treat oriented, very food oriented a dog. And so he's so funny. We'll go out there now occasionally in the backyard on the driveway where we have these bars set up, and he'll just be doing the exercises by himself, and he'll look up and you can just see he's doing it because he's like, look what I'm doing. I'm doing my exercises. It's so cute. He's so
That's
funny.
awesome.
I can totally relate. Nellie's been doing the same thing. We're at a place where there's one of those par courses that has lots of little obstacles for
Right.
people to walk around and do. And there's little posts on the ground that we get her to step up on. And on her own, she has been getting like all 4 legs, all 3.5 legs up on those posts. And
Awesome.
look what I could do.
Do anything for food.
Yeah, no, that
Yeah.
Ginger, I'm glad you mentioned that though, because it is important to tell you is that these aren't just exercises that have to be work or that you have to really force your tripod to do. If you do it right, it could be fun and enjoying, and you want them to have that as well because you don't want them stressed out or hurting themselves.
That's the
Exactly.
main point there. It can be a fun, engaging thing for both of you. It can be exercise for both of you. And it comes back to that quality of life, depending on what stage of the cancer journey in particular. You know, when they're older and reaching the end of that journey and a little less mobile, you got to dial it back. And then there's still other ways you can engage with the dog. And the same thing comes down to nutrition at those end of
Right.
life stages. That's, you know, there is a time
Mhm.
for cupcakes.
I
Eventually.
did not want to miss an important question I had, which we're giving Indiana now Adequan shots. So
Oh,
talk to
good.
us about, tell our audience about Adequan shots and tell us about your success or what you've
Did
learned
we
about.
use
We used that. Yeah, we used that for
With Wyatt.
Wyatt. When Wyatt was 11, he really started declining physically. That was a tough part. Mentally, he was still sharp as a tack, but his body was starting to give out. And we did start using Adequan shots. They don't ask me the scientific information behind it, but basically for really severe cases of arthritis, it makes such a huge difference. They're not cheap, but they're doable at least.
And doable
for
at
us.
home.
Yeah, and actually I learned how to give him the shots myself. So pretty easy, just like giving a sub-Q shot just right under the skin. But it did make a difference. For some dogs it doesn't, but for the vast majority it does give them a little extra oomph. So I'm glad you're doing that. That's
As
great.
with everything, you know, it'll work, and then it's time to try something else. And the next thing with Wyatt was those what was that, the LS, the injections they gave him, acid something, the
Oh, hyaluronic acid.
Hyalur-
He had a
HLA.
hyaluronic acid injection once, and that made a difference. A lot of times with arthritis, it takes multiple approaches to bring the pain and inflammation down. There's not just one
Right.
pill.
That's why
Right.
prevention is key. I
yeah.
mean, if you start
Slow
early,
it down.
keep them fit and trim, no explosive exercises, postpone that till the, you know, as long as you can.
Well, that's why that's what we're trying to do with Grayson, and because he's only 3, and so he's still a young kid, and hopefully we'll have many years ahead of him. Indiana's a 4-legged knucklehead, but he's just old. But we're doing a combination of Adequan and I think Carbopren, the other non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. So he seems to be responding very well towards that. But I like you, Rene, is his mind, his spirit. He's like a puppy.
Yeah.
He's having the most fun in his life. He's so cute, and he's just a joy to have. And so I can see the horizon ahead of me that his body's going to give out before his spirit. And I try not to cry. it's just something I can't cry about now, break down about now. So it's tough. But that potentially is maybe what you're going to experience with your tripod, and it is important to think about that. Hey, by the way, listen, I didn't have this down, but do we know, are there any studies? I'm guessing probably not, but it would be wonderful if there were a study on do tripods live a shorter life? Are they more predisposed to cancer than non-tripods? Do we have any of that data out there?
In short, no.
Okay.
But we did have a tripod talk podcast episode once with Dr. Felix Duer from Colorado State. He leads their orthopedics department there. And I said, you know, Dr. Duer, wouldn't it be great if we had a tripod's lifetime study, just like the golden retriever study?
Right.
Let's get them into the study when they're puppies. Obviously, dogs without cancer who have lost a limb. Let's see how they age. Let's see what happens to them. And he's like, yeah, we could totally design that study. If you got us a few $1 million, we are all over it.
There was 200,000.
Let's
Well, you're
I
not
think
gonna.
he said 2 million. I think he said we could start with 2 million.
No, you could start small and stage it up. We've done a number of clinical trials the Puppy Up Foundation has, and you could do it, stage it, start small. I think I don't know if they always had 3,000 in mind with the golden retriever study, but that's 25 million and counting. So,
Right.
Yeah,
but
it's huge.
having any data is important, but it has to be a significant sample size for it to be medically significant. But I'm telling you right now, I'm not the executive director. I'm just the founder. I'm not even on the board. But count Puppy Up Foundation to help out, maybe even be a partner with you on a study of that nature, because obviously osteosarc patients, we need to know also if we look at our tripods more predisposed to cancer, we need that data. I'm a data guy, so anything we could do to help push that along.
Awesome.
As you know,
So-
we have go ahead, please.
The lack of that, clinical data is why we've been doing tripods and discussion forums and 2,000 plus blogs for 15 years. It's anecdotal, but it's real life stories by numerous people sharing their stories about different dogs with and without cancer. And one study could be done just studying those stories, that
Right.
amount of data, and create some sort of data set from there.
That
For those who want to read through it, it's all there.
That would be a retrospective study.
Right.
And there is significant value in doing those, but they again cost data mining. Basically,
Right.
that's where the money goes, and it's just labor cost, and then having the analytical software to do so. But I'm a firm believer, guys, in an N of one. Every tripod counts. That's a data point. It's more than that, as you know, as you both know.
Yeah.
But it's an important data point that can't and should not be lost, because it's just data. It's a story. And on one level, it's a story. It's a beautiful life, but on a secondary, equally important level, it's data that goes into our common knowledge base, that we all need to have to be able to make the right medical decisions, for our Fuzzybutts, for our tripods. So and let me know whatever we can do to help that along. So yeah, excellent. Okay, we are. I think we're halfway through the bullet points, and we're all now into it. I know we'd be able to talk about so many wonderful things. So I don't want to punch through them, but I want to get through to certain things. Hydro, unfortunately, I want to be able to take Indiana, and I could. I'm sure there's one in Little Rock, but hydro for geriatric dogs, 3-legged dogs. Do you recommend that?
I'll tell you again, Luke, it's every dog is different. It would depend on a certified therapist giving you the professional advice. We're not vets.
And whether or not the dog even likes water.
That's one thing to consider. And it's all about the condition. What hydrotherapy does, as opposed to swimming, is works on the extended range of motion. There's a reason the dog water's that high. But one of the best things you could do is walk around in water that's just kind of chest high, because the dog's going to reach for the bottom rather than swimming with little short strokes. They're going to stretch out. So it really extends the range of motion. So it depends on the condition and then the modality that the professional determines.
There's Grayson, my
There he is.
three-legged knucklehead, my three-legged fuzzy butt. King Dingaling, that's his nickname. I think he's about as smart as a potted plant, but he's the sweetest kid, man. He is a big sweetheart, and he's a daddy's boy too. I can't watch a movie at all without him draping himself all over like a shoal or something. But I love him, and I really am. All kidding aside, it is a challenge. It's something that I realized that as a new pet parent, my first dog, Malcolm, as you guys know, I should say it, was bone cancer, and he lost his limb, and that's how we connected. I think that was one of the ways that we connected. Bone cancer, having a tripod. And there just wasn't as much known back then. It was a different experience. And so this one I adopted with 3 legs. He wasn't 4-legged when I got him. I got this one 3-legged. And it's been a tremendous learning experience. And so that's why I highly recommend it again to go on the Tripawds community. So you're going to hear people's stories that are talking about hydro and how it was beneficial and from what breed, what size, whether it was bone cancer, whether it was this or that. There's so many things that we could talk about, like phantom pain and so on and so forth. But let's get to, is there anything that we want to talk about bone cancer Tripawds? Is there any? I threw that out there.
Sure.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Well, when our dogs had cancer, the average life expectancy was pretty grim. And today, the treatments that are coming out with immunotherapies are really, really promising. We've seen a lot of members' dogs go way beyond the initial prognosis. We've seen dogs go 7 years and live out their normal lifespans after participating in clinical trials. So one thing to consider is that if your dog loses a leg to bone cancer, don't automatically assume that dog's not going to be around in a year. A lot of people will say, well, I'm going to let my dog do whatever they want because they're not going to be around very long. And that's what we did. And our dog got injured. So let's assume from the get-go that your dog is going to be one that beats the odds and goes on to live their normal life expectancy. Treat it that way always, because you just never know with all of the new oncology therapies that are out there.
And the alternatives to amputation. We just finished recording Tripod Talk Radio, like 119 or something, talking about cementoplasty again. And this is bone surgery where they're injecting bone cement to keep the bone from deteriorating further to avoid amputation on dogs that aren't candidates.
So
limb replacement therapy, essentially.
Yeah. So
well, limb sparing, but not with the traditional fixating. It's actually just doing a laparoscopic surgery and drilling into the bone and creating a cement around the tumor that's, the bone that's falling apart. So that's really fascinating.
It's really promising. There's one vet in the US doing it right now, but it's
what was the first? She's done the first, and now it's available.
Like
here.
a lot of things.
Who is it? I want to get. Who is it? I want to get her on Fuzzybutts and Friends.
I will, Elena Stewart.
Just email it to Ginger, please.
Yeah,
please. I would love to get her on it.
Yeah,
so it's been done overseas in the UK or in Europe particular, and she just happened to be the first one who's done it here, and now it's available to be done here.
There are studies
through Biocera Vet is the company, and cementoplasty is the procedure.
Yep.
Well, we always make it a habit, I think pretty much nearly every episode, especially ones we talk about cancer and veterinary oncology, to recommend to our audience, pet parents out there, go see a board certified veterinary oncologist. They will have hopefully all of the treatment options, and they'll be able to give you an educated idea about the typical prognoses for the outcomes, the potential outcomes for the treatments and so on and so forth. And as a pet parent, you have to have as much data as you can to make the right medical decision. So we always recommend, we always strongly suggest, I don't think I recommend anything. Get out there and go. It's not a tremendous investment. And like you said, is sometimes there are treatment options out there that at least can maintain or improve the quality of life. So that is for sure. Let's see. What is that? Partial amputation. Oh, MISS. I wanted to talk to you about MISS. You were mentioning that a minute ago. Absolutely the one thing that's always irritated me. MISS, yes. The mythology behind tripods and amputation. One of the ones that I still hear that drives me nuts is there are still veterinarians out there that are saying your dog is too big for amputation, or your dog is too old, which may in some cases actually be the case. But you still hear that out there that your dog is too,
we hear it, and then we see facts proving otherwise. Large Great Danes, Corso dogs, Mastiff dogs.
The best surgeons will say that size and age should not exclude a dog because they're all individuals. And just like people, age is just a number to certain dogs. So just because your dog is older or bigger doesn't mean you should automatically rule them out from consideration. Cats especially. We've had 18-year-old cats
18.
Wow.
lose a leg and bounce back to being what they were before, a couch potato Garfield kind of cat, you know?
What matters
So-
is the comorbidities. What else is going on with that
Right.
animal?
Yeah.
What other age-related issues? You know, is there something going on with the liver? So it's all about the comorbidities and what else is going on with the dog, not necessarily just the age or the size.
I was just going to say that you said that very scientifically and accurately and well a second ago, Rene. You said that age and size should not exclude a dog from potential amputation. Did I get that correct?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
wanted
And that
wanted to
came
repeat
from
that.
a UC Davis orthopedic vet. Who
Good,
visited
okay.
several times.
Next question. This is not the lightning round. I assure you. I do want to
No.
we do want to kind of keep it certainly within an hour,
Sure.
15 minutes. And we'll have you back next year. So anything we forget,
Yeah.
we'll talk about next year. Let's talk about partial amputation, because one of the things and trying to outfit Grayson for a prosthetic or something, I've talked to a number of people, orthopedic surgeons and so on and so forth, that they said, man, if you can spare or save any part of the limb, do it. So don't just always, instinctively take the whole thing off. So that's also true. You found that to be true. And
Yes, and it's one of the most popular questions when people come to Tripawds. It's usually after surgery, and one of the first things they ask is about prosthetics. And unfortunately, the answer is you really need to talk about that with an experienced surgeon
Absolutely.
before surgery, because we have spoken with Dr. Denis Michelin-Little, who's like the leader with integrative prosthetics and veterinary prosthetics. And he told us that for a prosthetic, truly to be functional and adapt well and dog adapt well to it, you got to have at least 2 articulating joints, at least 1, preferably 2. But if you can amputate a paw and still get those things to move, they'll do great with the prosthetic. If you can do something below the elbow, great. Unfortunately, people find out after amputation, and there is a device out there that we've both interviewed the makers of. It's referred to as a prosthetic. It attaches. It's an externally fixated thing, but it's really more of a brace or a support, because I've never seen one video of a dog with one of those going upstairs or getting up off the ground. They show them running along, and it looks great, and it's very promising.
Right.
But there's a lot yet to be done in that field.
Yeah, I know there are some. I'm sure. Yeah, always consult. I mean, I think that should be sort of a nonstop disclaimer of the show: is always consult with an expert.
Yes.
Always consult with your veterinarian. You're not. None of us are, and stuff. Not even Ginger is a veterinarian, if you can believe that, folks. It's very good advice. But I mean, I know there's one myth out there that I've heard, is that leaving a partial or a part of the limb lends itself to repeated infections. And
it's not necessarily a myth.
It's
depending on how it's treated.
If you have the luxury of time to discuss that with your vet,
right.
It's really helpful. Like, we have one episode in our podcast where we talked to a dog mom who had a husky that had a really bad break. Her regular vet said, let's get rid of the leg. She's like, whoa, wait a minute. Let's figure out, can we save at least some of it? I think I want to try a prosthetic. So she found other people to talk to. And if you go into surgery knowing that you want to pursue a prosthetic, it's really likely that wound healing process, because you left so much of the limb, it's going to be longer than a normal amputation recovery. You will have dressings and things to consider. It will take more time to heal. But if a prosthetic is your goal, then it's totally worth it. If your vet leaves a lot of limb left and you weren't even thinking about a prosthetic, you're in for a world of hurt.
And that's because the dog will attempt to use it. I mean, they'll try to use it. It'll adjust their gait and their stance and cause spinal issues, and they will be using it to get up, and they'll damage it. And, there's only so many.
And also, a vet told us too, that if you are going to leave a partial limb and a prosthetic is the goal, the actual incision closure needs to happen differently, so that there's not so much tissue on the very end of the limb
Correct.
that will cause problems later. So there's a lot to consider. And I honestly, if that was my goal, I would not have anybody but a board certified surgeon do the amputation.
I was just going to say board
orthopedic surgeon or probably oncology surgeon.
Exactly.
Yeah, somebody who's
right.
familiar with prosthetics and has used
and
them
how much
with
skin
their
needs to be
clients.
left when
Yeah.
removing like that kind of partial thing.
Yeah, and but that always should be the conversation is what is the outcome do you want? Do you
What's
want
the
to
goal?
outfit them with a what's the goal? Do you want to outfit them with a prosthetic? I should have not used the word myth. I should have said disqualifier.
Sure.
Like some people use that as a disqualifier for saying, well, don't get a partial, don't leave a partial limb, because it just always is going to get infected. So it's not, it does happen. We know that it happens, but I
Yeah,
gotta tell you,
It can.
Ginger's bud man, I gotta tell you, he had that little half of, he guess his had his at his elbow. I think what happened, I think what happened is his limb got tied up in barbed wire and he had to chew part of his leg off to get through it. Budman was it didn't face him for Budman was awesome, but it was so fascinating to watch him run. He would use that thing as a pivot and he was so efficient with that partial limb. And I don't think, to the best of my knowledge, Ginger, did it ever get infected? Did you ever have a problem with that?
No.
Just do this.
Sorry, yeah.
Answer to that is no. He was already healed when I got him. And it was his knee, actually. So his leg was frozen, kind of like maybe Nellie's, but it was his back leg. So it was frozen like this.
Yeah.
He was missing his foot and ankle. And many people wanted me to have it amputated, but he used it to steady himself when he went to the bathroom.
Yeah.
So I was like, unless it bothers him and, and maybe it gets infected or something, then I'm not going to do anything with it. And he didn't. I got him when he was approximately 8, and he was a Katrina rescue from 2005, and he died in 2011, and he never had any problems. It did not keep him from digging to China in my backyard. That's the only thing you could see.
Yeah.
My pet sitter said, I didn't know how I was going to get him out there because all I could see was that nub. It was sticking out. And she said, I called his name. He came, came backing up out of there. He was remarkable, really.
He was a cool kid, the bud man. He was a righteous dude, that's for sure.
One last thing on the prosthetics is that aside from the physiology, a major part of the discussion is with the human and the finances and the time dedication. So it comes down to, if you have the opportunity to talk about prosthetics before surgery with a board certified or experienced surgeon, do so, but be aware that it's going to take even more rehab and more visits to refit and get that thing comfortable and train and spend some time and money on that.
There is a prosthetics quality of life study that was done by CSU, and that's on our website. If you just go to tripods.com/tag/prosthetics, you'll find it. And generally, most people are happy with the outcome. Yeah, it does take longer. I think it was average time was about 8 months to a year for the dog to fully adapt to it. But when they do, most people are thrilled.
Wow.
But it's not a one and done. You just don't stick a prosthetic on a dog and then go walk. It's not going to happen.
All right. Before we move on and start to wrap this thing up, is there anything about adopting a tripod, rehab, exercise, managing it, trying not to go crazy when your tripod doesn't listen to you and is not grateful to you on a daily basis, from saving him from evil people that caused him to lose his leg, like my Gray? Is there anything I'm missing, basically, before we move on?
I think we covered it all.
All of the above there has been actually covered in the news blog at tripods.com, because Rene has an article specifically about adopting a tripod and things you should know.
We're not going yet. I just want to kind of wrap up with the life with the tripod thing. Okay, so I want to go back now to the Tripawds Foundation. Where can people apply to that specifically, and what else do you want people to know about?
So we've got a number of programs at tripods.org for financially distressed families that need care, and they're faced with an emergency bill. We have the Tripawds ASAP program. That's an amputation surgery assistance program, and we're giving away $1,000 twice a month. So it's first come, first serve, either before surgery or after surgery as a reimbursement. That's tripods.org/ASAP. we will reimburse anyone who takes a 3-legged animal, dog or cat or rabbit, I presume, to a certified therapist for their first rehab visit at tripawds.org/rehab. All we need to see is the receipt and a photo of your dog and a few words about what you learned. We have the Tripawds helpline, toll-free 1-844-TRIPOD. If you ever have questions, we're not vets. Call your vet with any better concerns. But we have an emotional support.
You should not have told me that. You know, there's gonna be a night when I'm gonna call. my great Pyrenees isn't so grateful for me, because you have to think about the humor. I'm getting into comedy as a way to tell my story of travels, and it really is kind of funny when you think about it. And Grayson I've got so many bits on Grayson. But you would think, right, when you think about it, his parents, whatever his situation was, they kept him chained up to a stump, and the chain got wrapped around his limb. It caused whatever laceration. They didn't take him to a vet and just get a damn antibiotic for a couple $100, and so it got infected, festered, and then they had to amputate that. And that's the day after that, or maybe the day of, was when I got him. And you'd think that every day since then, Grace would wake up and go, "Thank you, Poppy. Thank you. I love you, Poppy." But no. So
that story is identical to Wyatt. You know, it was, someone left him in the backyard. It happens more than you know.
And he was a tough love too, because he had very emotional, traumatic PTSD, maybe even PTSD.
Probably,
yeah, but it's tough, but you have to learn their nature, and you just have to work around it. And so every day I love you, Gray. You don't have to love you.
Back to the Tripawds Foundation and Canine Cancer. One of our programs is the Kaiserin Pet Cancer Care Package. And what we're doing there is twice a month, we're giving away, if your dog or cat has cancer, send us, the diagnosis and a photo, and
first come, first serve.
We send a care package. And this, for dogs, they'll receive a harness and a bed and treats and all sorts of things, and our ebooks. For cats, they get some steps trees, and our cat ebook.
Goodies.
And that's to help the person and the animal through their cancer journey. And this was inspired by Natasha and Kaiserin, who was a canine cancer hero, who was actually a certified trick trainer and trick dog, and really got into dog painting. And what I'm getting to is what's coming up is the annual Tripawds Painting Dog Art Auction.
I'm going to ask you about that.
Awesome. It's the primary way that we fund the Kaiserin Pet Cancer Care Package program.
Right.
Dogs paint.
This is not painting of dogs.
No,
this is dogs who
I understand that. Yeah, I love it.
Dogs who hold a paintbrush in their mouth and hit it on the canvas and create this incredible artwork. Jim's gonna get Nellie's painting.
Wait, I gotta ask you a question, because that's on my list. I wanted to know what's coming up on your calendar.
Yeah, that'll be in June.
Okay,
so Nellie painted this.
That's awesome.
With a brush in her mouth. That was her very first one. And this was the third one she's done. A little shimmery action there.
Yeah. You could see she's developing.
And we have videos of Nellie painting and other dogs painting. All of the auction items have the dog's photos and or videos. And with the auction coming up, the big news, not sure when this episode's dropping, but we're launching a dog painting course. So Natasha has made a series of 4 videos, how to train your dog to hold the brush, take the brush, hold the brush, touch the canvas, and then where you go from there. Natasha's dogs, Schultz and Wilhelmina, are now painting shirts, greeting cards, Christmas ornaments, and it all started with Kaiserin painting canvases. Last year we had 20-some art pieces. And we'll have again the same amount, if not more, this year.
I'm dying to ask my question, because was sort of the lead of the whole thing, and it sort of changes the whole nature of the conversation. Is can you still submit paintings? Because I wanted to sign Gray up this year, so can I still do it, or did
it is closed?
I figured
but get in for next year.
So for 2024, we will announce that after this one's happening June. Mid-June.
It's mid-June.
I know it's not
Mid-June.
your job to keep your big dog informed of events and stuff like that, but we did go through this last year when I interviewed. It's like, please remind me because I want to try it on Greg Ray with Greg Ray.
Subscribe to
Now's the
Tripawds
time
News.
to train and teach them how to paint, and we'll let you know when the course is available, and you can.
Tripawds News. Go to
Yeah, but I
tripawds.com,
think
subscribe.
the painter, you know, I have limited bandwidth in my universe, so I do the best I can, but I so much want to do it. It would be a fun activity to do with your tripod, with my tripod. I want to do it with Greg Ray. I'm into NFTs right now.
Right.
So I'm going to be doing something like that similarly, though not nearly as spectacular and advanced. And I'm not even sure it would even work with Greg Ray, so it's going to be fun to try it. But I think it's cool you have somebody, an artist that's not. I see you. I see you. You should have a buzzer or something, but let me just I'm almost done. Is that I think it's really cool that you have an artist that's going to help teach people how to train their pets. Go ahead.
Well, it's not relevant now. I can't. Are you gonna put the paintbrush in your mouth?
Yeah. Do the dogs actually have to have like the ball thing from Pulp Fiction or something to
Oh my gosh,
no,
no.
not necessarily, but every dog's different. So in the course that we're launching, there's different ways you create these brushes. One's with a foam block, you drop, stick a brush in there. But if your dog likes balls, you can put a hole in the tennis ball and they'll hold the tennis ball. Or a lot of dogs like sticks, so you put it on a wooden dowel.
Yeah, I think it's great what you're doing for the foundation. We're going to be a part of it. Love to help promote it, and the auction sounds really cool. But I got to tell you, I've got to get Grayson into NFTs and start earning some income. I have to start.
Teach that dog how to type.
All right, so let's see. So TriDay, I want to get to that because we didn't really do a good job advertising that, promoting it like I wanted to. So that is 3/3 every year. Is
every
that right?
year, March
So
3rd.
every day in our community is Tripod Awareness Day, but on 3/3, March 3rd, 3 is a magic number. So we've selected that as the annual Tripod Awareness Day, aka TriDay, and every year we ramp up to it and get people to share new memes and new artwork and share their videos and photos, and it's just a day to kind of ramp up to
celebrate three-legged animals
and the people who care for them.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, we'll do. I think my plan is, Ginger, if you can make note of this, if you're even paying attention there, I know you're struggling, is that I want next year to have them on before 3/3 with several weeks in advance, and so we could do a better job promoting it because it's an important day. It is important to know that three-legged and two-legged kids, they're our family just like all of them, and they may be special needs to a certain extent, some more so than others, but they need their own day of appreciation. Absolutely. So it's a wonderful thing that you do. TriDay 3/3 every year. But like you, now that I have a tripod, my days every day is try
every day.
Right,
well,
right.
Some days I don't really appreciate it that much, though. Honestly, I'm kidding. So, all right, guys, I think that I'm looking at my scribble now. I think I hit all of my bullet points. I wanted to talk about the bias of AI and tripods. It's kind of a funny thing I'm involved with, but we just don't have time, and that's very niche. So, is there anything? I'm going to open up the platform, guys. Is there anything else that I missed, or you want to talk to our audience about?
I would just tell people to subscribe to Tripawds News to find out what's going on in our community, when we're going to have guests on. What is the link, Jim? It's just tripawds.com/subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe, which I know I have, but read. That's the second.
Yeah,
that's the thing. And in that case, for those with the shorter attention spans, there's Facebook.
Yeah.
Tripawds.com, Facebook.com/tripods. And we get the word out as often as we can. And one of the things we're doing now is monthly live Q&A calls. We call it a happy hour. And we just had one last Friday, and these are free, available to the public. It's just informal discussion, no selling, no agenda.
Right.
If you have a question about the tripod journey, come and meet people who've been there. And on our call, we had people who have been with the community for 9-10 years, and people who had amputation yesterday. So it was really a good kind of happy hour discussion.
I think that's absolutely wonderful, because people need to know that there's a community out there, that there are answers out there, that there's help out there, available to them, and I think that's wonderful. I am going to be calling that helpline whenever I
844 tripod.
The grocery bags are on the floor of the kitchen.
Right.
I've had a meltdown. I love my tripod. It's wonderful what you do for our tripods out there. And you've built a wonderful community, and your fellow travelers who continue to, and I imagine, like me, you'll be traveling till the end of your days, the two of you, just like me. And just like Ginger, although she's mostly based here in Memphis, so I don't think she really travels anywhere. But you guys are travelers, and it's important. We need people like us. For you,
Spread the word.
For you, it was Jerry. That was the inflection point in your life that became the thing that has set you on this path. For me, it was Malcolm, and you need people out there that will be a part of this till the day they die, because it's that important. All right, one more time, give us your website and your social media again, please, Rene and Jim.
Tripawds.com. Go to Facebook.
What about social media? Is it all at Tripawds?
It's at Tripawds everywhere. And for those not watching, it's PAW in the middle, Tripawds.
On Instagram, it's at Tripawds Community, all one word.
See, now in Twitter, you have two, and it seems like one is the active account and another one is a retweet account. So you do have two of them on.
Yeah, we're not actively.
That was another
there
person
right
who gave up the account, and rather than it just disappearing, we just kind of use that.
Twitter, it's hard to get traction on Twitter for any sort of significant dog events. They have animal hospital. It's just Twitter's a tough space for dog.
We're not as active there as we are on Instagram and Facebook, especially over the past few
you can find them
years.
somehow, everyone. If you just even do a Google search, it's like Jim said, TRIPAWDS, pods, not PODS.
.org.com. Assistance programs and resources.
Just like Puppy Up, we also have .com and .org. I got to get my little pitch in there every once in a while.
Of course, and
foundation, because we usually do it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
About the travel thing, it comes back to, like our pups, we keep on keeping on. Absolutely. So keep up the good work. You're just doing incredible stuff, and we look forward to
whether it's on 2 legs or 3 legs or 4
right.
legs. We got to keep on keeping on. This is the time of the story where we do give a little plug in to the Puppy Up Foundation, all the wonderful work that Ginger Morgan, the director, and all of our volunteers out there across the country, and even actually across the world. But she obviously, she typically does the cancer tip of the week. But she's not able to. Well, you were yapping a little bit earlier. You sounded like you were coming around there, but I think we'll go for that. We've run long. We talked about bone cancer, so I'll leave it on bone cancer as a very real threat. If you have a large breed dog, you should always be watching their gait, paying attention to them, putting your hands on them, seeing if there's any evidence of pain in their limbs. So on that note, I'm going to wrap up this episode. Jim and Rene with Tripawds and Tripawds Foundation. You guys, it's always a treat to see you guys. Safe travels to you out on the road on your mission. Safe travels.
Ditto. Thank you so much.
Safe travels to all of our audience out there. If you're traveling around with your fuzzy butts, take care of them. And until next week, puppy up. Talk soon.